Hello, everyone, and welcome to 2024. Today, I wanted to talk about backgrounds. Now, you've probably seen them on Zoom calls and the like, but did you think about using them in your photography? And what I'm talking about here is using a generated background. You could always get things off of stock photographs and things like that, or you could look around to stock to get ideas of what to put together for a prompt to do your own. So we're going to take a look at today is a couple of backgrounds that could be used either as the background for a Teams or Zoom call, or if you shot on a green screen, you might be able to put somebody into the scene itself. So the first one we're going to start off with here is a mountain pass. One thing I noticed that rivers and roads and paths all look very similar in the setups that I'm using. For some reason, they all kind of look the same. In nature, they don't look quite as similar. For example, this river that you see here would probably be a little bit less defined as it is in real life, especially with that pathway along the side. It just looks too fixed, like it took an image that had a road on it and just plastered in water over it. But here's the first one with a mountain in the background. All right, so that's one option that you could use. Here's another one. You'll notice that it's very similar with that big flat area, but you have a nice mountain in the background, trees along the side, a beautiful river running along. And another one. So you could actually shoot a client on skis against a green screen and then pop them into a scene such as this. Now, you'll notice that all of these are square because I needed them for a different reason, but you could always make the image wider. You could pull things closer to you. So there's several options you could do. You could run it through, for example, a process to make it larger, in other words, more pixels. And then you could zoom in closer to things. It would add more detail, but at the same time, the upscale would also allow you to zoom in and put your person in and make them look a little bit more realistic as to scale. Want to go to a foreign country, or at least something that looks like a foreign country, and pop your person in? You got people on the sidewalk walking, you've got some cars. It's not a great image, but depending on what you wanted to use it in the background for, again, here's something similar. I don't think a photographer taking a picture here would leave a tree blocking the Eiffel Tower, but these are more illustrative than actual for use type images. Maybe you want to look like you're at a board meeting. So the person, or you want to use this as your background. It gives you some options as to what you can use these for, obviously, but be creative. These are just some ideas. You're on a call and you want your house to look different than it does, or you don't want people to see what your house actually looks like. You could put something like this in the background and use it as a backdrop to your call. Or again, you could seat a couple on a chair, green screen, take a picture, and then put them into an image such as this. Put them in Victorian wear. Right now, we're starting to get into some more of the fantasy type genre photography, but you could put them in Victorian wear and put them in something like this, taking out this lamp here, which doesn't look very Victorian, changed out the bulbs up here to flame candles, and you might have a Victorian era image. Just make sure you clean up some of the artifacts in here that wouldn't match that particular time frame, or take your prompt, tweak it, and run it again. Keep your seed, all right, because that should give you a very similar image to what you've got here using the same seed, but change your prompt. Comfy UI, as I've said in the previous one, is much faster for me than using the Stable Diffusion UI. So I can pound this thing all day long and get 1,000 pictures that I could then pull ones out that I wanted to use. In this case, I had generated over 60 backgrounds within less than an hour, and just to see what I could get from the UI and the different prompts that I was using. Now, the prompts I was using were very, very simple. You'll see that at the bottom of the page. Again, all of these are going to be in the episode 73 notes, which I'll link below. And you can go and look at the JSONs that were saved. Now, one of the problems that I found with the save, that enhanced save that they've got in Comfy UI's interface, is it doesn't grab the prompts properly. You also can't split the prompt to go to it because it wants text entries instead of using the ones that we put in for the clips. Now, the problem to me that leads to is you have to put them in two places. And that means that you can get out of sync. And if you get out of sync, then you might have a wrong prompt for what you did. So I tend to just leave it as is and let it spit out what it's going to spit out. Usually it spits out the negative as the positive prompt and doesn't put a negative prompt out at all. But I'm sure that'll get fixed in the future. You want to look something more modern or more sci-fi? You could put everything into a situation like this. Use this as a background. Again, making some modifications as you feel appropriate. Now, just because it was generated by the AI doesn't mean you can't go back in and tweak parts of it in something like Photoshop. Remove elements or add other elements in. Have it generate a new mountain vista for the windows and then copy and paste those in. So you're limited only by your imagination, the prompts, and the engines that you're using. But again, you could keep using different engines and generate different objects that you could then use in these images. If you're on a call and you really have to go, just tell them the doctor's calling and pop this up in your background. You'll notice it's got text at the top that you would want to swap out, but it's a very interesting look to use for an image. Again, these were all done quickly. I might go back after some of them and refine them, change the prompts out a little bit. If you keep the same seed, like I said, it should give you a very similar image. But the whole point with the generative AI is play. Don't worry if you get a bunch of duds. Don't worry if your prompt doesn't work. If you have to, just tear the entire prompt out and put a brand new one in. But just go through and modify the prompts and see what you can get for interesting situations in which to put your subjects. And once you've got a series of backgrounds put together that you like, well, then you can offer them to your clients as ways that they can put themselves into a scene. It's not just a normal portrait photography, especially if your clients are cosplayers of any kind. They can put themselves into the entire scene and make it appear as if they were there. And what a wonderful thing that would give them as an album, even, of different costumes and different backgrounds and different ways of seeing themselves, because I believe when we go to a particular or are drawn to a particular uh, character, either there's something we see in them that resonates with us because it's similar to us, or it's something we want to aspire to. And keeping those reminders around is a great way to keep on the path that you want your life to take. And that's what I got for you this week. Again, this will be the episode 73 notes out on the website, which I will link below so that you can see the different images that were used today, as well as the JSON that was created as the job, and the full JSON for the Comfy UI at the bottom. And I will talk to you guys all next week.